to me at that time, their house just looked massive. Like I had never been in a house that I felt like was that huge. Living out where they lived, there was like a lake and trees in the background. You know, that was like stuff that I only saw in movies and things like that. And I was like, wow. So I remember at the table, I just asked the dad, I said, are you rich? And he laughed. I remember him just chuckling. He was like, no, I'm not rich. He was like, you know, I just went to college. And then by going to college, I was able to get a good job and it would help me take care of my family. And I was like, wait a minute. So all you did was you went to college and going to college got you all this? He was like, yeah, you know, he said, you know, you read and you research and you go to college and you get your degree and it allows you to, you know, make a good salary, and a salary allows you to take care of your family and buy nice things. After that, everything else he said to me, it was like in slow motion. It was like he was saying, womp, 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 like on the Charlie Brown, because all I heard was college, get a good job, college, read, research. Like that was what was going through my head. And I was like, I can do that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me on Literacy Journeys with Linda. I have a wonderful guest here today. She is I'm not going to say world renowned, St. Louis renowned.
Speaking into existence.
There you go. Dr. LaTisha Smith. She goes by a lot of names. Her real close friends call her Tish. She goes by LA. She's just so fabulous. She'll answer to anything you call her. That's fabulous. Throughout this interview, I'll just probably be saying Dr. Tish because she earned that degree. So welcome. Thank you, Dr. Smith, for joining me today on Literacy Journeys with Linda.
Well, thank you for having me. I was super excited and I felt extremely honored when you asked me to be on your show. So thank you.
Well, of course, because you know what we have in common? We both love literacy. Oh, absolutely. My goodness. I am so glad I found that out about you. So tell me, I know you're from St. Louis, and tell us where you work and what you're doing now in your profession.
Yeah, so born and raised in St. Louis. I had a small period of time that I wasn't in St. Louis for about 6 years. I lived in Columbia when I was getting my degrees, but then came right on back home to St. Louis.
Okay, wait. Right now, we're not talking about Columbia in South America. We're talking about Columbia, Missouri.
We're talking about Columbia, Missouri. I wish Columbia, South America, maybe one day. That's, you know, but no, right down the street, Columbia, Missouri. But I had some great times at Mizzou and earned some lifetime friends. So I wouldn't trade that experience for the world. But yeah, so back here in St. Louis, and right now I work for the St. Louis City Public Schools as their Director of Professional Development.
Very good. That sounds so huge, Director of Professional Development. But I believe you had to take those incremental steps in order to handle a position that's that big. What were some of those incremental steps prior to that?
Well, I think some of the things that I kind of pride myself on having has really helped me be successful in this role, because you have to be able to multitask, most definitely, and also be able to organize a lot of people and then be very collaborative. A lot of my work involves lots of collaboration with the various departments, because I don't just do or help facilitate or manage teacher professional development. I also have to work with safety and security, social workers, the nursing staff, our instructional coaches, even though there's a person over them, but we do a lot of coordination and collaboration. And a lot of times it ends up just being a huge logistics game. But I love that. I love planning. I love organizing. Even in my family, I was always planning and organizing events, from just social gatherings with family to birthdays to formal events and gatherings. Some of those things that we miss right now, but I'm sure once the world gets back to normal, we'll be able to enjoy some of those things again. So those things have really helped me in this role, and I love every bit of what I do.
Those skills tapped into things that you loved and did naturally with your family. You are a natural organizer. And yes. So when you weren't intimidated by this role, because, you know, oh, I got this. I organize family reunions and all, all kinds of things like that.
Yes, I love people. I'm a person that loves people. So I like being surrounded by people. Like I said, this whole COVID thing has been an adjustment for a lot of us, especially those of us who just get energy from being around other people. So just being able to handle and manage and organize a large gathering is something that I'm very skilled at doing. And so just whenever a professional development day comes around, I'm just always excited about what we get to do, how we get to utilize our entire district, our schools, some of our partner locations and their offices. So it, like I said, becomes like a huge game of Tetris. You just got to get all the pieces to fit. And I find that very exciting.
Now, let me ask you, Dr. Smith, how much of your role involves literacy? That's what we're talking about today, your literacy journey, because every job has a literacy reading and writing element to it. As far as your day-to-day task, how much grant writing or proposals, how much writing and reading do you have to do?
Yeah, so fortunately for me, I don't have to do a lot of grant writing. Fortunately, the district has an office that does the grant writing.
Yes.
However, they do often send me things and say, hey, you think this would be something good for the district to explore? And if so, can you just give me a quick paragraph, some quick reasons about how we can use it, how we can incorporate the professional development, or the training component in that. So I usually am always either writing something as far as a description, as far as an alignment, how something will work. I don't, like I said, write a lot of grants, but also in part of that literacy component, I tell people it also involves reading as well as writing. So I do a lot of writing. We do a lot of, in the district, just writing of reports. We are always revisiting strategic plans and having to add to those and adjust and adapt. So there's always something either being read, something being written, something being reread, something being shared. So all those different aspects of literacy are at play every day in my role. And then I'm always, when I get home, it doesn't stop. I'm always picking up something, reading, whether I pick up something that the kids have left laying around, whether I'm reading something on the back of a cereal box, whether I'm reading something on a nutritional label, just anything I get my hands on, I'm always picking up something and reading, because I feel like I learned so much. Like I learned about a new website, I learned about a new app. I'm always clicking on something and I'm trying to read what the ads say. Like anything I can usually get my hands on, read something, I'm trying to explore, because I feel like that is the way you learn.
Tell me now, Dr. Smith, how did this love of reading, picking up everything you could, how did that start? Tell me about your childhood. I know you come from a large family.
Yes, there are 9 of us. I am the second oldest. So very early on, we were always playing school. And so of course I like to be the teacher. There was a few times that, my other siblings got to be teacher, but, of course, during those times, I didn't like school that much, but when I got to be teacher, it was my element. I liked, being able to tell them what to do, how to do it, what to read, how to read it, and so forth. But my memories of that came much later in my childhood. I don't remember, the things that we promote now that the research says about reading. I don't remember those things happening very early on in my childhood. And that's the reason why I think it's so important to push literacy as early as possible. So as I was growing up, what happened was I was in school and we had a program at school because I was bused as part of the Rockwood, the VIC program. And so I had a very long ride to school and a very long ride home, but I was also very involved. I was on student council, I was on choir, I did cheerleading, because I always, as I told you, love to be around people. I love being active. But one of our teachers, Miss Rogers, she was a music teacher. She noticed that when we had to go home for those choir concerts, by the time we got home, barely had enough to stuff something in our mouths, it was time for us to turn back around and get in a cab to come back to the school for one of those choir concerts. Right. So she came up with this idea. She was like, I wonder how it would be if we had families who already live out here in Baldwin to host, some of our VIC students after school for those 3 hours or 3.5 hours before these choir concerts would happen. And then they would go home in a cab. So it gives them a chance to kind of sit down, veg, do homework, and have these experiences. So one of my experiences, she had made arrangements for me to go home with a young lady named Carrie in the Tobin family. So in that experience, I just felt like it was life-changing, because I got exposed in just those short amount of hours to so many things that I had never been exposed to. For one, this whole, we sit down together at a table and eat. Like I said, there was 9 of us. You got in where you could get it. You grab what you could grab, like you ate what you could eat. But they had this, I'm sitting there like in culture shock, and they're like, can you please pass the corn? And I'm like, pass it to who? Pass it where? So, that, and then they sat there and they talked, and, the mom was asking questions and the dad was asking questions. And, that was all new to me, because my mom talked to us when we were growing up, but we didn't sit down at tables and everybody interacting and me asking my sister questions and she asking me questions and so forth. And another thing, to me at that time, their house just looked massive. Like I had never been in a house that I felt like was that huge. Living out where they lived, there was like a lake and trees in the background. That was like stuff that I only saw in movies and things like that. And I was like, wow. So I remember at the table, I just asked the dad, I said, are you rich? And he laughed. I remember him just chuckling. He was like, no, I'm not rich. He was like, I just went to college. And then by going to college, I was able to get a good job and it would help me take care of my family. And I was like, wait a minute. So all you did was you went to college, and going to college got you all this? He was like, yeah, he said, you read and you research and you go to college and you get your degree, and it allows you to, make a good salary, and a salary allows you to take care of your family and buy nice things. After that, everything else he said to me, it was like in slow motion. It was like he was saying, womp, 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 like on the Charlie Brown, because all I heard was college, get a good job, college, read, research. Like that was what was going through my head. And I was like, I can do that. I can read. I can go to college. I can make some money. I can have a big house. I'm going to have a big house like this with a lake in the back, just like them. And so after that, it was like, I don't know, it just opened up something to me. I was trying to read everything I could. I remember it had to be around fourth grade and fifth grade. That's when I went to Carrie's house. I started reading like Encyclopedia Brown books, like anything I get my hand on, Nancy Drew, the Choose Your Own Ending stories, like anything I could find. I was just sitting in a corner. Like it felt like I didn't want to go outside anymore. Like my siblings would be outside running up and down the street. I would be sitting over in a corner somewhere reading a book. And then I started, after my love for reading developed, I started thinking like, man, I want to write a story. Like, I think I could write a story like this, and so I didn't start off writing stories right away. What I started off doing was just writing little stuff. Like I started writing songs. I started writing poems. I just started just doodling just words and just making up stuff. And like, I have, even to this day, file cabinets, notebooks, pieces of random paper.
No way.
Yes way, that I would just write down stuff because I didn't even know where half of it was going to go. Like I have songs, I'm like, how can I get this song to, Michael Jackson? How can I get this song to Anita Baker? Because even throughout college, I was like, I have a whole list of songs. I'm like, somebody needs to be singing these. Now, I tried to sing them, but that's not my skill set. Everybody around you would tell you, like, Tish, you got to stick to reading and writing because the singing thing was not your gig. So I gave up on trying to sing the songs myself, but I have songs that I've written, poems that I've written. And even people say, are you going to ever publish
things? Dr. Smith, you've kept all these things? You've kept?
Yeah, now through the moves, I've lost a lot of it, but yeah, I still have tons of stuff. I still have tons of my books and tons of my poems that I've written. Like I still keep thinking about one thing I never did was publish a poem book. And that was actually one of the first things I thought I would publish because I just had so much poetry that I had written, but I've never gotten around to publishing that poem book. But so, like I said, throughout college, I had this idea that I wanted to write this.
Can you recite one?
Oh, girl, I couldn't tell you anything from memory.
I'm sorry, put you on the spot.
Yeah. No, I was gonna give it a good try though. I was like, let's see what can I remember. But yeah, this 40-some-year-old mind doesn't work like that one back in college back in the day. So I tell people back then, I wrote down everything because it was just really the excitement to write things down. Right now, I write down everything because I'm going to forget it tomorrow if I don't. So, the writing has taken on another road of its own. But so my very first book that I ever wrote and published was an adult book. And I actually wrote it in college. And it kind of stemmed off the idea of just some of the things that my sorority sisters and I would talk about, young women. I'm thinking I'm early 20 at this time, 19, 20.
Okay, give a shout out to your sorority. Give a shout out.
All of my sorors are Sigma Gamma Rho. Yep. So, yes. So that became my family when I was in college. Like I said, I was always used to being surrounded by people. So when we joined the sisterhood together, just, those same women are still my friends today. So I love them to death. But we just talked about, just the regular things people talk about, from relationships to, how we're going to make it rich and just all the complications that may come with that. So my first book was actually an adult book. But that took me a long time, like even trying to, figure out the chapters, how to introduce new characters, how to keep it interesting and motivated and exciting and things like that. So I enjoyed it. It's called How You Get Them is How You Keep Them. Now, I enjoyed it. It was a fun book. I mean, like I said, a lot of people got a kick out of reading it, but I realized I didn't want to take that much time on a book. I wanted to, because I like writing so much, I'm like, I want to write it and get it out. I want something that's going to be fast, quick, exciting, and all of that. So that's when I started thinking about, it was a class I took in college. It had to do with culture responsive text, but it wasn't using those buzzwords back then, but it was just talking about diverse text and all of that. The instructor mentioned that a lot. So I was like, I really kind of like this. I want to write some diverse text. I think I could add to, this world of storylines for minority kids, or they can see themselves in characters and stories. So that's what first kind of sparked my interest about writing characters, writing books that had characters that were minority or may have had disabilities, some of the ones we don't normally necessarily see all the time. So that started my love of wanting to write a children's book. And then that's when I started my journey. Kind of right after I graduated, I was in graduate school. I published my first children's book in 2006. I had just finished my doctorate. Well, finished the work. I was still writing on that dissertation that took forever to write. But yeah, I published my first children's book, and that was called Mama Always Knows Best. And then it's just like when I actually put that out, just the feedback I got from people about like, oh, this is so cute. I read this to my, my kid. And that's when my sister, like, I read this to my, your nephew. And then, that made me feel good. I'm like, yeah, that's what I want. I want to know that, the things I write are being shared, not only with, just people around the world, but my kids and then my nieces and nephews and things like that. So that started my excitement for writing children's books. And now today I have 7 children's books. I have 1 adult book and 1 gift book. And then I have 2 projects. Do you feel like there's
more books inside of you?
Oh, there's definitely more books inside me. I just finished a gift book. It's called Black Love 365. I actually just finished that like a couple of weeks ago. So now it's with the graphic designer who kind of puts my books together for me. So I've been waiting. I've been checking my email like, man, when are you going to send me this? I want to flip through this book on the, electronically and just see how it's come together. And then I have 1 book that's in the making. It's called And the People Carried Signs. And what it is, it's a book about the Black Lives Matter movements from the gauge of a 11-year-old boy, and kind of how he's trying to understand and process that, because I believe it's a story that we're going to have to be able to, share and tell our kids and try to help them understand, what some of these things mean that they're going to see maybe now, what they're feeling and experiencing now, and then some of the things they're going to see and read about in the future. So I thought it was important to start trying to find a way to have those conversations with young kids. So I'm most excited about that one. So that's my current project that I'm working on. Wow. But yeah, there's plenty more books in me. I mean, I think I'm going to be writing books to the day I die.
What would you tell these young people today about reading and writing? What's it doing for you?
Yeah, so when you mentioned that, about this confidence or whatever, I just kind of smiled to myself because a lot of people, probably look at me and probably think like, oh, she's so bold, she's so confident, but that has not always been me. And I often think that my journey to reading and writing is what brought out this girl who talks, this girl who asks questions, because I even tell people nowadays, I'm so a behind the scenes person. Like even when I'm planning PD, they're like, do you want to do the welcome? I'm like, no, such and such can do the welcome. I'm not one that I don't have to be out front. I could be behind the scenes, that's fine with me. But I do believe that this reading and writing journey has allowed me to have voice and has allowed me to feel bolder in, providing my voice, not being so quiet and shy. Sometimes things that you can't necessarily say or figure out how to say when you're in the moment, I go back and I write things out or I think them through, and then I'm able to put them on paper, and then I'm able to get them exactly how I want it, exactly how I want it to mean, exactly how I want to say it. And so that's why I think it's really important for us to start that journey with kids very early. I had told you earlier that my journey and my love for reading and writing, I mean, it started early. I said it started in elementary school, but it didn't start as early as I try to promote it amongst people that I know, amongst my family and all that. I tell people all the time that my kids got a lot of R&R. And what I call that is a lot of reading and rubbing. I was rubbing that belly and I was reading books. I was rubbing that belly. I was humming tunes. I was rubbing that belly and I was writing, because that became so important for me once I found out how important literacy is in the life of people. I tell people I have been to countries that I'll probably never touch as a human through reading. I have learned about, so many different people that exist, their stories, places I would have never known about through reading, and it's a powerful thing. And I feel like I told you, I'm always picking up something because I feel like I learned so much. I learned about apps. I was always talking about how I wanted to invest. I hear about people making all this money on the stock market and all that. I just started reading and I'm like, okay, Tish, you've read a million things. What's your action? What are you going to do? So I was reading a magazine, Real Simple, that's the name of the magazine. Yep. And they talked about this app called Stash. And I'm like, let me check it out. And it felt to me like after I read about it and I sat on it for a while, I slept on it, I'm like, well, I could just invest a little bit of money. And now I think I have the game around, but now I'm not ready to write a book about the stock market and stocks yet. But I feel like I've been able to read enough about it, to educate myself enough about it in order to take the action that I wanted to do with something that I've always wanted to do, which was to invest. So it's just those things. And I tell people, we cannot downplay enough, we cannot downplay this power there is in literacy, this power in reading, this power in the knowledge that you gain, this knowledge and the freedom that you get just from time from reading something that you're like, oh my gosh, I never knew that perspective. I never knew that existed. I never knew that woman was over there. We're so alike and she's 5,000 miles away and we have the same thought processes, the same, all kinds of things. So I find literacy as an energizer. And like I tell people, it's more than just about reading. It's about writing. It's about thinking. It's about speaking. I can't tell you the number of times just how I've been moved by the words of other people. It was, 5-minute TED Talks, 30-minute ceremonies, like, and I, sometimes when I sit still and the tears just roll down, I'm like, this message, this voice is hitting me at my core. So now what am I going to do with it? So I just get excited when I talk about it because literacy is so powerful and I just can't get the word out or the message out enough about how much it can change your life. And so that's why I'm always encouraging, like, I know people in my family probably got tired of getting books for gifts and things like that. But, I'm just like, you got to read this. And I even ask people sometimes, like, what are you reading? And one of the things I really enjoy now is that sometimes at the bottom of emails, if you get emails from people, they tell you, currently I'm reading, the Diary of Anne Frank, whatever it is. And I'm like, oh, I never heard of that book. And so I'm jotting stuff down. Like I even keep a list of like stuff I want to read when I'm teaching my graduate courses. Sometimes people talk about stuff that they refer to in their paper. And I'm like, this sounds like an interesting title. Let me write that down. Now, granted, some of these books I may never get to, some of these articles I may never get to read, but I always have a go-to. There's never well, what can I do now? I'm bored. How are you bored? There's a million things to read out here in the world. Like you could be writing something. You could help the next person figure out how not to be bored and write about it. Write a top 10 list of things to do not to be bored when you're bored. I mean, it's just so much around literacy that you can do that, there should never be like a dull moment. So, and that's me. I'm always, I don't have time to be bored. Like either the only time I'm bored is when I'm asleep. And because when I'm waking up, there's something I have to do. I'm telling you, I have to write this book. I want to do this gift book. I want to do this. So that's just me. People have all kinds of things they love. People love cars. There's people that love shopping and having expensive bags. I love literacy. I love to say it. I love to wear it. I love to anything I can do around this world of literacy.
Now, see,
I'm all in.
You touched on something I was just going to ask you about, but before that, I wanted to tell there's an app for that, for all the books you want to read. Goodreads, that app. Are you aware of that app?
No, but I am. That's a Goodreads.
Anytime you see a book, you go to your Goodreads app, put it in there, and you have a drop-down box that says, want to read. I already read it. I have so many books. That's where I keep my list.
Nice. Okay.
App. Okay. Wear it. Come on now. Tell me about the wearable literacy. What you got going on your business?
Yeah, so that kind of came to me, like I said, just laying in bed one day, like, just trying to wind myself down to go to sleep. And I was just thinking about just sometimes the things that come across my head. So one of the things was, I've always talked about, I want to be a millionaire. I want to be a millionaire. But, I'm just like, that may never happen in this lifetime. And then before I went to sleep, I said, you've achieved millionaire status, a million status. And I'm like, what do you mean, Tish? You have this conversation in your head. You're like, you totally read 1 million pages. That's something that, that's something to be proud of. I'm like, you know what? I'm a millionaire. So I thought of this shirt that says Millionaires Club. I'm like, I'm in a Millionaires Club, and I brought Millionaires Club. And then right underneath it says 1 million pages read. And so after I thought of that shirt, then I just started thinking of shirts. And I'm just like, yeah, because reading means more than just about reading. So then I had an acronym for reading. I was like, it means I'm ready to articulate discussion. And then, just to
wait, you said it too fast. Reading means what?
Ready to articulate discussion.
Oh, wow.
And then, I have 2 teenagers. So my teenagers are always trying to remind me of how uncool I am. So, my son said something about, you ain't got no swag. And then I just kind of spit it out. And I'm like, I got swag. I speak with articulated grammar. And he was like, oh. And so then I was like, oh, I got to put that on a shirt. And so all of a sudden I ended up just sitting down and I wrote out these shirt ideas in a notebook. And so I came up with my first 10 and then I started adding to them. So now I have 21 altogether. And that's when I started Readyware. I'm like, I want to share these thoughts I have about reading.
Say the name of the website.
Readyware, readyware.com.
Readyware.com.
Okay. You know what? I take it back. It's readyware.org. The .com was gone. So I ended up with readyware.org.
Okay.
So yeah, and that's kind of how that came to life. It was about just trying to capture all these things around literacy and just put them on shirts. People always are communicating with other people, how they're thinking, how they're feeling, what they promote, what they support through the stuff they wear on their shirts. And so I wanted people to know, hey, these are things I wear. This is what I promote. And then if there's other people who want to share this message and help promote these things around literacy, you know, I wanted it to be accessible and available for them to be able to do the same thing. So that's how readyware.org came about.
Well, as we close, I want to talk about all the people out there who are not like you, who are not like me. There are adults who are struggling, parents who are struggling to read. You know, we've got the third grade crisis, kids who are struggling to read. We've got high schoolers who can't read their diplomas. Don't you have a lot of compassion and empathy for them? And more than that, what do we do?
If I would say anything to those people that you just named, I would say, you know, I haven't always been me either. I didn't always know and understand and value the power in writing and literacy. But one thing that I know for sure is you have to start somewhere. Even if you start off with just things you can listen to, like you said, there's apps for everything. There's apps for just listening to books. Listen to a book while you're in the car. Listen to a book before you lay down at night. Let your kids listen to books while they're eating dinner. Just say, hey, this is quiet time. All the other electronics are down. We're going to listen to this story while we eat dinner. It's only, you know, we only eat dinner for 10 or 15 minutes. We're going to devote this amount of time to literacy together as a family. And then just start reading words. Just look at words. You'll start to notice when you're actually starting to look at things in print, you know, there's words that you might have heard and you say, oh, that's that word. That's how you pronounce it properly. I just say you have to take baby steps. We're not going to all, you know, even when we watch a baby develop, they don't come out of the womb running. You know, they come out, you know, they need to be held at first. And sometimes you might need someone to hold you. You might say, hey, I really am not that strong in reading. Can you help me pronounce these words? We can go in private. We can do those things. Reach out to someone. Don't be ashamed. If anybody makes you feel bad for wanting to better yourself and increase your own knowledge and ability, then shame on them. You find the next person who doesn't feel that way and won't make you feel that way. So I just say take whatever steps you can to find that person in you that's going to love literacy, love writing. And even if you don't love it, respect it and know that it's going to help you only improve and increase where you are in life. So just take the step. I mean, like I said, everybody who reached out their hand, there's somebody that's going to be there willing to grab it and help take you to the next level. And it's been the same way with me. I have not gotten here alone. Like I said, I've learned from other people. I ask questions. People have shared things with me to help me get to the next step. I just learned about another app that's going to help me chronologize all these books that I need to read. And you find it out by talking to people, having conversations. So don't give up on yourself because you're not there yet. Remember, we all started somewhere and it takes steps to get to where we want to be. So just hang in there, take those steps, and then I hope to see you on the other side.
Well, thank you, Dr. Smith. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining me in this wonderful journey with Dr. LaTisha Smith. I certainly appreciate you. And if you like these interviews, please click that subscribe button so you won't miss any of these conversations with these wonderful people about their literacy journey. Thank you so much, Dr. Tish.
Thank you.